7 movies and 10 TV shows in 3 years. A constant stream that rarely built toward anything. What once felt like magic began to resemble a machine. Then, in July 2024, Marvel broke the glass. The studio went back. The Russo Brothers returned. The architects behind The Winter Soldier, Infinity War, and Endgame, to direct the next Avengers films. That decision changes the conversation. This goes beyond box office numbers or superhero fatigue. It points to a system that lost its way. The question now becomes simple. Can the people who built the machine still make it work? But to understand if they can save it, we have to look at the wreckage. Let's look at the numbers. Phase 3. From 2016 to 2019, averaged roughly $1.2 billion per film. But what about Phase 4 and Phase 5? If you strip away the outliers driven by nostalgia, like Spider-Man and Deadpool, the average drops to $600 million. For the core studio, the revenue was cut directly in half. And then there is The Marvels in 2023, $206 million worldwide, the lowest grossing film in the franchise's history. The critical reception has measurably declined as well. Phase 3 films averaged 88% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, 84% from audiences. Phase 4 and 5, 75% from critics, 68% from audiences. That's a 13-point drop from critics, 16-point drop from audiences. So the conversation is, how did we get from Avengers Endgame breaking every box office record to a world where MCU films are underperforming, audiences are walking away, and the conversation around Marvel is defined by words like fatigue and decline? To understand the collapse, we need to look at the original contract. In 2008, Marvel didn't have the X-Men or Spider-Man. They had B-list heroes and a desperate plan. Iron Man was a financial gamble, yet the most important moment happened after the credits rolled.
You think you're the only superhero in the world? Mr. Stark, you become part of a bigger universe. Who the hell are you? Nick Fury. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
30 seconds. That was the moment the industry changed. Marvel stopped making isolated sequels and started building a serialized narrative. For the next 4 years, they trained us. Tony Stark appearing in The Incredible Hulk, Thor's hammer teasing the future. Each film stood on its own, yet every post-credit scene rewarded the people paying attention.
Told you so, General, but that super soldier program was put on ice for a reason.
They taught the audience a new language. Everything matters. May 4th, 2012. The Avengers. 4 franchises in 1 film. Conventional wisdom said it couldn't work. 4 protagonists means someone becomes the lead, others become sidekicks. The Avengers didn't follow that math. Early in the film, Loki's been captured and placed in a glass cage on the helicarrier, designed to drop him 30,000 feet if he tries anything. Natasha walks in to interrogate him. They talk for 90 seconds. Loki mentions Budapest, something from Natasha's past that clearly still affects her. He mentions Banner, your big green friend. Loki knows about the Hulk because Thor was there.
Banner. That's your play.
What?
These characters have history between films. Then Loki brings up Hawkeye, who he has under mind control. Natasha's composure cracks. Her eyes well up. She turns away. Right when Loki thinks he's won,
Thank you for your cooperation.
she was manipulating him the entire time. 90 seconds. That is all it took. It references 3 different movies. Proves these characters exist in one world. Rewards you for paying attention. No explosions, just craft. And this is what I loved. They were actually connecting things. The Avengers made $1.5 billion worldwide. More importantly, it proved the model could work. You could build a cinematic universe. Once audiences learned to expect that, once we were trained to look for connections, to wait for payoffs, Marvel had to keep delivering. 2013 to 2019, Marvel was on a run unlike anything blockbuster cinema had seen. Winter Soldier in 2014 played like a 1970s political thriller. There's a sequence where Steve gets into an elevator. Brock Rumlow and a dozen S.H.I.E.L.D. agents get in with him. The doors close. The tension builds because you know something's wrong.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
The fight that follows is brutal, confined, hand-to-hand in a tiny metal box. Guardians that same year is pure space opera. Talking raccoon.
That dude there. I need his prosthetic leg.
Oh, I was just kidding about the leg. I just need these 2 things. What?
Sentient tree.
Groot, I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot.
A cassette tape as the emotional core. Ant-Man in 2015 is a heist film. The climactic battle happens on a toy train set in a little girl's bedroom. Different genres, same universe. Every film stands alone but contributes to something larger. Here's what Marvel understood. Connection without consequence is meaningless. Consequences carried forward. Age of Ultron destroys Sokovia. Governments respond. Civil war happens because of that collateral damage. Tony has PTSD in Iron Man 3 because he nearly died in the Avengers.
My diagnosis is that you've experienced a severe anxiety attack.
Bucky's return fractures Steve and Tony's friendship. When Quicksilver died, he stayed dead.
I didn't see that coming.
Thanos collecting the Infinity Stones was built across 5 films. Every action had weight. This was the contract. Pay attention, and we'll reward you. At the center of Marvel's best work were 2 filmmakers who understood this system better than anyone else. Quick thing, if this breakdown is working for you, subscribe. I analyze films like this, and it helps me know this kind of content is worth making. Anthony and Joe Russo came from television, Arrested Development, Community, Happy Endings, sitcoms about ensemble casts. That's why Marvel wanted them. Joe Russo said, "In television, you don't have the luxury of giving everyone equal screen time. You have to make choices. Who drives this episode? If you try to give everyone equal time, nobody gets a story worth telling." Community had 7 main characters. Every episode, 1 or 2 were the focus. Everyone gets their moment, never all at once. That's rotating focus. How television manages ensembles. Civil War has 12 superheroes in the airport fight. You never lose track of anyone. That's structure from television. Arrested Development taught them visual efficiency. Multi-camera sitcoms are shot fast. 4 cameras, 3 days, deliver. Every shot serves a purpose. Watch Winter Soldier's action sequences. Every frame is doing multiple jobs. Advancing action, revealing character, building tension. Television teaches you to think in seasons, not episodes. Plant seeds early, pay off later. Trust your audience to remember. In Winter Soldier, Bucky's metal arm gets damaged. You see the plates shift. Small detail. In Civil War 2 years later, Tony grabs that arm and exploits the weak point. Callback planted 2 years in advance. Anthony Russo said, "Television taught us that audiences are intelligent. They'll track multiple threads if you give them reason to care. Trust them to remember." Let me show you exactly how this translated to film. One scene from Civil War demonstrates everything that made their approach special. We're in Siberia, underground bunker, 3 men in a room. December 16th, 1991. The Winter Soldier kills his parents. The screen goes black. Tony's face locks on Bucky. Steve steps between them. But Tony's already moving. Repulsor blast. Steve's shield comes up. Metal on metal echoes. Watch what happens over the next 3 minutes. Tony's fighting style is completely different from every other film. No quips, no banter. He's just attacking. Repulsor blast point blank. Grabbing, clawing. When Steve tackles him, Tony doesn't try to outthink him. He just keeps swinging. This is emotion overriding logic. The armor makes him dangerous. Steve's playing defense. Every move protects Bucky, not beats Tony. When he could go for a finishing blow, he pulls back. The camera stays tight on his face. You see the conflict. He understands why Tony's doing this.
Do you even remember them? I remember all of them.
Targeting system locks onto Bucky's face. Bucky just closes his eyes. Not pleading, not explaining. The guilt is in the silence. The choreography tells you everything. These aren't acrobatic moves. This is 3 exhausted men fighting in close quarters. When someone hits a wall, they stay down for a second. Chris Evans did most of his own stunts. You feel every impact. Shoot this like a TV drama despite the $250 million budget. No sweeping camera moves. Mostly static. Tight on faces. Tony damages Bucky's arm. Disables him. He fires point blank. Steve dives in front.
That shield doesn't belong to you. My father made that shield.
Robert Downey Jr.'s delivery. It's not angry. It's broken. Steve looks at the shield. He helps Bucky up and walks away, leaving Tony collapsed, the shield beside him. No joke diffuses this. No villain forces them back together. They stay broken. The damage carries into Infinity War 2 years later. When Bruce Banner says, he asks where the Avengers are. Tony says,
The Avengers broke up. We're toast. Cap and I fell out hard. We're not on speaking terms.
That fractured relationship is why they lose. This one scene demonstrates everything the Russos brought from television. Rotating focus. All 3 characters matter. Visual efficiency. Every shot serves emotion. Long-form storytelling. Payoff to years of setup. Character through action. Show don't tell. Practical filmmaking. Physical weight. Trust in audience. No easy outs. Television training applied to blockbuster cinema. It created the best action filmmaking in the MCU. Mr. Stark, I Don't Feel So Good works because we spent 3 films watching Tony mentor Peter. Cap lifting the Mjolnir lands because we watched 5 films of Steve proving his character. That's patient storytelling.
I knew it.
Emotion before spectacle. Character through action. Consequences that echo. Patient payoffs. That's the Russo system. And this system created the peak. April 26th, 2019. I was in a theater with 400 people. The energy was something I'd never experienced. 3 hours later, when Tony Stark snapped and said,
I am Iron Man.
the entire theater was silent. When Steve handed the shield to Sam, people were crying because it earned that emotion. Avengers Endgame was the culmination of 22 films and 11 years. Every character arc reached its conclusion. Tony sacrificed himself. Steve chose the life he wanted. Natasha made the ultimate sacrifice. $2.798 billion worldwide. More than commercial success, it was a cultural event. I saw it 3 times opening week. The conversation dominated for weeks. Marvel delivered on every promise since 2008. The Russo brothers stuck the landing, but the cost was absolute. 3 of the 6 original Avengers were gone. Tony was dead. Steve had retired. Natasha had made the final sacrifice. The core that held the MCU together no longer existed. The Russo brothers left the MCU. Anthony Russo said shortly after,
part of the big creative upside of that for us was we got to do the conclusion without thinking about the future. Just focused on the road that these movies have traveled and how do we bring the most epic conclusion to that road.
2 weeks after Endgame's premiere, Phase 4 began production. Everything started to fall apart. What happened wasn't one problem. 4 interconnected structural failures. The first change was volume. Phase 3, 2016 to 2019, 11 films over 4 years, no TV series. Phase 4, 2021 to 2023, 7 films and 10 TV shows over 3 years, 17 projects in 3 years versus 11 in 4. Marvel nearly doubled output while reducing time. Suddenly there were too many things. WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, movies and shows arriving without space to breathe, a constant stream. Watching the MCU started feeling like homework. Miss one Disney Plus show and you're lost in the next movie. It's not, you get more if you watch everything anymore. It's, you're lost if you don't. Now to be fair, the studio was dealing with a crisis. Phase 4 was planned before COVID. March 2020, COVID shut down productions. August 2020, Chadwick Boseman died.
Actor Chadwick Boseman died at the age of 43.
Black Panther was supposed to anchor Phase 4. Production volume doubled, plans scrambled, the emotional center disappeared. The second structural failure was how Marvel deployed the multiverse. Marvel made the multiverse the entire foundation of Phase 4 and 5. Once you do that, you create Multiverse Insurance. There's a fiend in Loki. Loki's in the TVA, the Time Variance Authority. Casey's going through his pockets, then opens a drawer. Inside are Infinity Stones. Multiple stones just rolling around like paperweights. Loki stares. What are these? Casey glances down.
We actually got a lot of those. Some of the guys use them as paperweights.
The scene works as a joke, but think about what this does. The Guardians nearly died protecting the Power Stone. Vision died because Thanos ripped the Mind Stone from his head. Wanda killed Vision to destroy it, then watched Thanos reverse time and kill him again. Gamora was thrown off a cliff for the Soul Stone. Tony used all 6 and died, and now they're paperweights. If the Infinity Stones, the most powerful objects in the universe, things that required ultimate sacrifice, are meaningless in the larger multiverse, what does that say about the sacrifices? Does Gamora's death matter less? Does Tony's? Once you establish that anything can be undone via the multiverse, audiences learn nothing has permanent consequences. Character died? Multiverse brings them back. Timeline broken? Multiverse fixes it. Once audiences internalize that, emotional investment dies. Why care if it's reversible? Marvel spent a decade teaching that consequences matter. Phase 4 taught the opposite. This brings us to Kang. Compare that to Thanos. Thanos worked because he was simple. Kill half the universe. The threat was immediate. You feared him before you understood him. Kang required explanation. Timelines, variants, incursions. Marvel asked audiences to understand the rules before they could feel the danger. When Jonathan Majors was fired, the saga collapsed. But that collapse reveals the real problem. If the writing had been strong, recasting would have been easy. Marvel had done it before. The panic pivot to Doctor Doom exposed the truth. Yeah! This saga was built on a fragile idea, with no one enforcing restraint. No one in the room asking whether complexity had replaced clarity. The third failure was how characters lost complexity. Thor in Ragnarok uses humor as a coping mechanism. He's lost his hammer, father, home. The jokes mask genuine pain. When he breaks down talking to Rocket in Infinity War about his losses,
vengeance, anger, loss, regret, they're all tremendous motivators. They really clear the mind, so I'm good to go.
It lands because we've seen the toll. Thor in Love and Thunder is different. Jane has cancer, undercut immediately. Children kidnapped. There's a joke.
Well, you liked it a second ago.
Gor's daughter dies, tonal whiplash. Every sincere moment gets deflated. The character went from using humor to cope with pain to becoming humor at the expense of pain. That trust disappeared. Marvel stopped believing audiences could handle sincerity without immediate comic relief. Hulk went from struggling with identity to comic relief scientist whose conflict was resolved off-screen. Wanda's motivations shift project to project. Hero in WandaVision, villain in Multiverse of Madness. Doctor Strange's personality changes depending on the writer. Characters became flexible rather than consistent. Flexibility is another word for shallow. Phase 4 and 5 had bright spots. WandaVision innovated with format. Loki Season 1 and 2 had strong character work. Guardians Volume 3 delivered a complete trilogy ending. But they worked despite the MCU, not because of it. WandaVision ended with White Vision flying away. 3 years later, never mentioned. Wanda's arc, processing grief, gets abandoned in Multiverse of Madness. Loki told a complete story, then became required homework. Guardians 3 worked because James Gunn had complete control and was leaving. Goodbye, not setup. Shang-Chi ended with the 10 rings sending a signal. 3 years later, no answer. Good projects worked because they told complete stories. Marvel's mandate was, everything must connect. So even good projects couldn't be standalone, and promised connections never came. It feels like nothing is connected to nothing. This era feels completely goalless. Eventually, audiences stopped showing up. Quantumania underperformed at 476 million. The Marvels opened to 206 million, lowest in MCU history. Phase 4 and 5 average, 600 million. Phase 3 average, 1.2 billion. Cut in half. Phase 3, 88% critics, 84% audience. Phase 4 and 5, 75% critics, 68% audience. Endgame dominated conversation for weeks. The Marvels came and went in days. Even Deadpool and Wolverine's success was driven by Fox X-Men nostalgia.
Aye, Captain. You got this.
Not current MCU investment. And even for a fan like me, the apathy set in. I like some things that came out. It's hard to keep up. Sometimes I forget things are even coming out. That would have been impossible in 2018. The contract was simple. Pay attention, we'll reward you. Phase 4 and 5 broke that contract. Setups didn't pay off. Consequences weren't real. Connections were fake. Volume was overwhelming. Audiences learned there's no reason to pay attention anymore. In July 2024, the Russos returned to direct Doomsday and Secret Wars. Robert Downey Jr. appears as Dr. Doom. And now, the first teaser confirms it. Chris Evans is back. These announcements feel big, but they reveal something smaller. Marvel no longer has confidence in its present, so it borrows credibility from its past. The immediate reaction was predictable, desperate. Marvel went back to what worked because nothing new had earned the same trust. But desperate doesn't mean wrong. The Russos understand the system. They've proven it across 4 films. They know ensemble management, long-form payoffs, grounding spectacle in emotion, trusting audiences with complexity. The structural problems remain. The multiverse needs to close. Doomsday and Secret Wars could collapse it to a single timeline. Stakes return when consequences return. Characters need depth. The instinct to undercut sincerity must stop. The Russos know how to let emotions breathe. Phase 4 and 5 need to matter retroactively. Either Doomsday references those projects meaningfully, or Marvel acknowledges those years were a failed experiment. Is this nostalgia? Yes. Is it desperate? Yes. Sometimes you go back to the foundation to remember how to build. The Russos stuck the landing once, but the trust has been spent. Still, for the first time since Endgame, there is a plan. But make no mistake, Doomsday is not just another chapter. It is the final gamble. Marvel has played its last card. If this fails, there is no reset, no nostalgia left to mine. The MCU won't just decline, it ends. This was the story of how Marvel lost its way. 2026 decides if they find it again. If this video worked for you, there's more film analysis on the channel. I'd love to have you stick around. Thanks for watching.